Welcome to week 1 of the Elestriad, where ShadyPenguinn, representing Hephaestus and the Fire Pantheon, is throwing down against Powdr, representing Zeus and the Thunder Pantheon. If you missed their deck profiles and their pack openings, be sure to check out the link in the description below. But otherwise, make sure you leave a comment letting me know who you think is going to win this epic showdown. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and pick up your own starter decks over at shopelestrals.com. Without further ado, let's dive into the clash. Alright, so I'm super excited for this one. I think this should be a pretty epic showdown, and there's a few reasons why. First and foremost, ShadyPenguinn is running Fire, and I think a lot of people would expect Fire to be kind of one of the weaker archetypes to start with, especially since Hephaestus is one of the lesser divine runes in terms of power. And then we're going to see Powdr, who's going to be rocking Voltempest. He actually removed the Imperial from his deck entirely and is rocking one of the strongest Elestrals that exists. So this should be a pretty interesting showdown. And Shady's going to kick things off with a small Tuga, and that's a really good start for Shady. Shady's got a little bit of a blend of some water in there. He's even got Peliquarius to search out his small Tuga. He knows that if he can search out the pieces that he needs with Small Tuga and some of these other searchers like Peliquarius, he can get the exact board state he wants. And he's going to make a very smart call here and grab his Kinleo right off the rip. Kinleo is really the key to Fire, right? You've got Necrough, which is a 5 attacker. That's going to be pretty crucial for him to pick up as this game progresses. But Kinleo just gives him that one drop that can essentially remove anything from Powdr's side of the field from an Elestral perspective. Shady showing his card game experience here and playing Nectar of the Gods after he does the search from Small Tuga, which is very smart. That's going to allow him to draw 2 cards at the cost of 2 of his spirits. So he's going to pick up 2 here, and we'll see how the game progresses as his Nog is done. But the reason why you want to do it that way is because you're going to be able to essentially clear that search, not put yourself in a situation where you're drawing Kinleo, but rather you're going to be able to grab, 2 new cards there. So very smart play by Shady to play the Small Tuga first, and we're going to have to see how Powdr is going to respond on their first turn. Looks like there's going to be no back row on Shady's end. So Powdr's going to pick up a card. He's going to get this started. If you're Powdr, you're looking for a few different things here, right? I know he's rocking that Riceros. If he can get that out, he's going to be able to kind of set up this floodgate, preventing Shady from attacking unless he's running Thunder Spirits. You've got some opportunities here to get something like a Toxion out to start doing some chip damage here, doing some passive kind of burn as you cast your Elestrals or as it receives. But he's actually going to play Astrabit, and I've been a big believer that Astrabit is probably one of the, if not the best card in the game. With 5 defense, it holds its own, being able to withstand tough attacks and most attackers in the game, but its real power comes from its look effect. The look effect allows you to peek at the top 3 cards of your deck and actually add 1 to your hand. And the best part about it is you don't have to tell your opponent what you're adding to your hand. So there's a lot of secrecy to it. And Elestrals, you have the ability to search with cards like Small Tuga, but you always have to reveal what you search for. But with Astrabit's look, you do not need to reveal that card. And what makes it even crazier is you can use this effect multiple times when paired with Nexus. If you're able to enchant the Astrabit on the following turn, you can use the effect again. If you're able to Nexus a Thunder Spirit onto it from a Spark It or from Circle the Sky, you can activate Astrabit's effect again. So there's a lot of kind of really cool use cases there, and there's a reason why, there's a few reasons why Astrabit has been kind of one of the best cards in the game since its debut, after it was kind of buffed coming out of the prototypes. A lot of you guys might remember when Astrabit was a lot weaker, but we buffed it kind of coming out of prototypes into the final stages of, what we ended up producing for Kickstarter, and it's definitely proven to be a massive, massive threat. There's no doubt about that. So Powdr's looks like he's gonna grab 2 Thunder Spirits and gonna play Nectar of the Gods of his own. So smart plays on his end as well, right? Utilizing the Astrabit look first to be able to pick out a card and then shuffle. I think you can kind of do one of both ways. I think I would tend to lean towards the Nog first, but it's very possible he picked that up from Astrabit. So we're not going to make too hard of a judgment there. But generally, I would think you would Nog first, then Astrabit, because then you have less options in the deck to choose from. But this is a key to ShadyPenguinn's strategy. He's going to throw down his Volcanic Forge. And you're going to see throughout this tournament, the Elestriad, these stadiums are going to be super important. Not only do they provide a +1/+1 buff to all of the Elestrals of that specific type, but maybe more importantly, they provide Nexus opportunities for cards like Shady's Kinleo to be able to Nexus from the Forge or to the Forge to be able to give an advantage. So this is a huge kind of turning of the tides here. Shady's able to get +1 onto his Necrough, getting it to 6 attack, which means it can attack over the Astrabit. We saw in Shady's deck builder that he wanted to have 3 Volcanic Forge for this reason specifically, they can be kind of a dead draw, but in this context, it's huge because Nekruff's going to knock out the Astravit. That's going to give another expend based on Nekruff's effect, and then Smoltuga is actually going to hit for 1 damage as well, which is going to put Powdr down to just 15 spirits. It looks like they're tied, but Shady's obviously got some board presence here with 2 Elestrals on the field. Now, if you're Powdr, you've got a bit of an interesting choice here to make, right? You've got a 6-attack Nekruff staring you down. That's going to be pretty tough to hit through. You've got a Smoltuga, which is baiting you in attack position. You're certainly going to want to get rid of that, but you got to figure out, how do I get rid of this Nekruff first? And it seems like Powdr has just the answer he's looking for with Elechick. Elechick is the only card in the game currently that can search out those Divine Runes, and you'll see it splashed into various decks to search out things like Poseidon's or maybe even Demeter's, but in this case, it's pretty clear to me that Powdr is going to be searching for his Zeus. Zeus hits the field as the Divine Rune and can scale up to 4 spirits immediately, not only providing you Nexus opportunities later, but more importantly, providing debuffs to the opponent's side of the field. Zeus can disenchant by taking a spirit off of it, target an Elestral on the opponent's side of the field, and dropping their attack and defense by 3. That's going to allow Powdr to target down that Nekruff here if he wants to, and drop its attack from 6 down to 3, thus allowing Elechick to actually hit over it. So Powdr is going to play that Zeus. He's going to read the text very carefully, make sure he gets it all right, and I think he's going to grab a couple extra Thunder Spirits to throw onto that, so that way he's in a position where he can indeed use this multiple times. And that's the cool thing about these Divine Runes, is they can be used a handful of different times throughout a match, as long as you're not the target of something like a Tornado or a Thunderstorm. So Powdr is going to probably use this effect here, give himself that opportunity to debuff that Nekruff and then potentially take it out. Shady is, looking and wondering what is going to be the next play here, but I think the play from Powdr is going to be pretty obvious. It's just a matter of, does Powdr have any sort of back row? Does he have anything else he wants to set? He's certainly thinking about it, but I think the opportunity to disenchant from Zeus here just makes a lot of sense to ultimately take out the Nekruff and give yourself that advantage. And that's going to be the thing, right? Shady now has to kind of deal with that every single turn unless he can get rid of that Zeus. So Powdr puts himself in a pretty good spot picking that up, but obviously Shady's got the advantage with the Stadium. So Powdr is indeed going to do that. He's going to disenchant his Zaptor here, as we saw coming. That is going to drop the attack and defense stat of the Nekruff by 3, and now the Elechick would be able to hit over it and essentially knock it out. So that's what it's going to be. It looks like he's pointing ahead that he wants to do it. And you have to remember, for a lot of these casters, they've played games before. I can tell you that I've played games with both of them in person, actually, but they don't play Elestrals every day. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here as they kind of work through some of these strategies and get a little bit more familiar with it. I think it'll be really fun to watch over the next 7 weeks how these different casters learn the game from kind of a ground level up, right? They start with a starter deck and they build to it. I thought that was a really fun way to have a lot of these creators approach the game as they get into, the Elestrals franchise here. But Shady is going to draw, and he's going to respond right away with another Nekruff. And this kind of power is going to be difficult for Powdr to kind of keep up with, because Zeus is great, but those active effects that the Divine Runes have, like Zeus, they're only used once per turn during your main phase. So it's not as if Powdr can use Zeus on Shady's turn, and he's going to end up taking another Spirit of damage from the Nekruff's attack and its effect, and then the Smoltuga is going to hit. So that's going to be a 2-spirit swing there, and Shady's sitting at 14 spirits while Powdr just has 8. Powdr's going to draw his card and going to deliberate of what he wants to do. Obviously, he's got that Zeus. He has a chance that if he has any Elestral with even, 4 attack is really what he's looking for. He should be able to get to that Nekruff, and he has exactly that. He's got the Toxion. Toxion's going to hit Shady for 1 damage when it receives, but I think it's time for a little bit of listening. Let's see what's going on.
What does Toxion do?
When Toxion receives 1 or more Thunder enchantment, your opponent must expend a spirit. Does that count now, or does that?
I'm pretty sure, right?
Judge? That does count now, yes.
Okay, so I got to take a damage now.
Okay.
Hey, Bo, just for my own learnings here, is it appropriate for the judge to, in this context, speak up and say, hey, you can use Toxion's effect, or would that be not appropriate?
So generally speaking, for the Elestriad, I'm going to be more prone to jump in. Generally speaking, judges shouldn't intervene if players are going to make a legal but suboptimal play.
Fair enough.
And the player is allowed to forget their Toxion conditional effect, so that's a legal but suboptimal play. For this, like, because
I would say definitely, yeah.
I will, when I catch an error, I will stop players before they move on.
Thank you, Shady, for reminding me.
Yeah, no stress, dude. I've listened.
That was a fun little listen in there, and you can actually hear that both myself and Bo were on the call ready to help out, and that's one of the things that we really didn't communicate a ton up front, but every one of these matches in the Elestriad has either myself or a judge or both of us kind of tuning into the match as it's happening. That way we can kind of provide some guidance or a little bit of help in case there's any sort of confusion of the rules, because again, we don't expect these creators to know every in and out of the game, every nuance of the game. A lot of them are learning as they go, and I think that's totally awesome personally. So you guys get to kind of learn with them, and this is a really good opportunity to do just that. So in that context, you know, Powdr was a little unsure of how those receive effect works. We're able to kind of let him know, hey, you definitely want to use that receive effect because you're going to be able to hit Shady for, you know, 1 damage on that Toxion. But what's really cool here is Powdr actually ends up playing his Thunderbolt of Zeus here. So that's going to give the Toxion +2 attack, bringing him up to 6 attack. And then with the disenchant from Zeus, he's able to actually knock out the Necruff. But not just that, he's able to burn for 2 direct damage because of the Thunderbolt and the Zeus on the field. So this is a huge turn for Powdr, right? He hits for 3 spirits in 1 turn, and while he's down to just 5 himself, there's an opportunity for him to kind of turn this game around now if Shady has no way to deal with this Toxion. And obviously, you know, Smoltuga's probably not going to do a whole lot to it, and, you know, Toxion's sitting at 6 attacks, so this could be a problem for Shady. Shady's thinking about it. Obviously, we know earlier in the match he picked up that Kinleo. Is this going to be the opportunity for Shady to use his first Nexus? I'm very curious if that's the play he's going to go, or does he have something else up his sleeve to get rid of this Toxion? But nonetheless, his objective right now is get rid of that Toxion, so that way you don't have to deal with the Thunderbolt of Zeus, because every time he destroys an Elestral, he's going to be taking more damage from that, and you do not want that if you're Shady, especially since you're ahead right now, right? So it seems like the obvious play in my mind is the Kinleo, but no, he's going to go the Volcaries instead. Now, Volcaries is a unique Elestral in the sense that it gets +1 attack for every fire spirit on the field. So in this context, it's going to go to 5 attack from its passive effect, and then it goes to 6 from Volcanic Forge. But now Hammer of Hephaestus hits the field, which is going to give +1 attack for every rune on the field and provide 2 more spirit buff to Volcaries. So Volcaries is sitting at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus the 2 from Hammer to 9, plus the Volcanic Forge to 10. If my math is correct, that is a 10 attack Volcaries in a very simple combo, and now Shady has an opportunity to get rid of that Toxion, and Powdr's in a situation where how do you hit over a 10 attack Volcaries at this stage of the game? He's going to attack the Toxion, and while Powdr's not going to take any spirit damage from this, it's going to hurt because he's going to lose his Toxion and his Thunderbolt of Zeus. So 3 spirits get wiped off the field, and the Smoltuga is going to be able to hit directly and hit for another spirit. So Powdr down to just 4 spirits left. Now, another way Shady could have done that may have resulted in a little bit more offensive pressure is instead of playing Volcaries, there was an opportunity there to play Kinleo. And Kinleo with Hammer of Hephaestus, you could Nexus the 2 from Hammer onto the Kinleo, destroy the Toxion with Kinleo's effect, and then be able to attack directly for 3 spirits from Kinleo, and there would have been a bigger spirit swing there, right? It would have been a similar outcome, but Powdr would have had less spirits, and Kinleo would be sitting at, it would have 3 spirits on it, so it would be sitting at 6 attack because of Volcanic Forge. So it's a different play. I think if you know, you still have the Volcaries up your sleeve if you need it, but he could have hit a little harder there on that turn and put Powdr kind of up against the wall a little bit faster. Powdr goes to the Nectar of the Gods play, gets to draw 2 cards, and then has Ambrosia, so he can regenerate 3 spirits to try to get him back in this game. He's down to just 1 spirit, but this Ambrosia is going to help him out here. And I believe at this point in the game, I did also mention to these players that, hey, listen, I don't know if you guys know, but just in case you don't, you can use spirits on the field to cast counter and invoke runes. So I was telling Powdr you could use your, you know, spirit on your Zeus to cast your Ambrosia. So there's some cool opportunities there with some dynamic gameplay as you kind of learn more of the nuanced details of Elestrals as you figure things out. But here's Powdr. He gets his Jolt into the field. This is a little late in the game, but a pretty important piece nonetheless, because Jolted is going to allow him to search out his Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus is going to give him the stadium control that he's been looking for. I knew going into this match, stadiums were going to play a huge part, and they really have, right? And that's funny because Powdr is the one who you would think would have the biggest advantage with stadiums, with the searchability of Astrabbit looking with Jolton being able to grab those stadiums just off, you know, the cast. So he's going to be able to do that, but he's still staring down a very powerful, very powerful Volcari. So he can clear some of that, right? He can get the Volcaris down to about 8, if I'm not mistaken, but he's going to have to figure out, how do I attack over that with my Jolton with only 3 spirits to go, and he has not even played the Mount Olympus yet. So Powdr up against the wall here, facing down a very powerful foe in that Volcaris with the Hammer of Hephaestus. Again, Shady has a couple tools up his sleeve. We know he has that Kinleo still, so he's looking to be in a pretty good spot, but let's not rule out Powdr here. This is an opportunity where if you can pull something like a Tsunami or put that down, there's a really good chance you can kind of come back here. So Powdr digging. He's got another Thunderbolt of Zeus. Wait a minute. Thunderbolt of Zeus is going to get that that Jolton up to 6 attack. Wait, this could get really interesting really fast. He has an opportunity here potentially to deal some big damage. He's going to go after the Smoltuga, and that's going to mean Shady has to take 2 spirits of damage. So Powdr going to bring this a little bit closer. He doesn't get rid of the Forge, which means that I think Shady should be able to take this one here without the Forge being gone. But Shady's going to take 2 more spirits, bring him down to 6, and it looks like we're going to be headed to our final few plays here. I think it's time for a little listen in to see how this one ends.
One more, so.
All right. You end?
Yes, I end.
All right. I am just going to do the Eruption, which just forces you to expend 3 damage.
All right, you win.
So that's it. GG, bro.
GG. GG. Shake hands.
Shake hands, shake hands. I know, dude. Normally it's a fist bump at locals or something. Come on.
All right, good game. Good game.
Yeah, good game, dude. Yeah, you ran deep. Honestly.
Yeah, I tried to like bring something back. I did do a couple misplays. I like realized after the fact in my hand there were a couple cards I should have like played earlier or done.
We love that kind of growth from Powdr, recognizing their mistakes and moving forward to do better next week. And that's all you can do as these new casters learn Elestrals and build upon their card pools week by week. You gotta love Shady throwing down the Eruption to seal the deal for week 1 with some pretty cool tools still left up his sleeve like that Kinleo. Let me know what you guys thought of the match. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to pick up some starter decks and other stuff at shopelestrals.com. We'll see you guys for the next set of matches for the Elestriad.